Traffic and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
This hourly segment is brought to you by IDT. Eliminate paper files with the IoT Smart Connected Scanning Device. Find them at ready4IDT.com.
Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. I'm really interested to get right to it with our next guest because we finally get some truth regarding Amy J's time in Iowa City, where she was supposedly a big deal, big woman on campus, girls of the Big Ten.
No, it was the Women of Iowa calendar.
Okay.
I was a Kappa Gamma.
6 of 1 Kappa. Of course, we got to get the sorority in. Dating competitive eaters and
working at sports column.
Who'd you date? Brad Lowhouse?
No, Jeff Moe.
Oh, Jeff Moe. Dating basketball players.
This is getting embarrassing. Because she doesn't remember me, and I'm crushed.
We'll see.
We were in TV Pro together and Film Pro.
Kari Lake is a former TV news anchor and Iowa grad. She ran for governor of Arizona, you may have heard, and she is out on the stump for Trump as well. Kari Lake, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Good morning. You're telling me this is the Amy Jacobson?
Oh, come on. You're lying.
Thank you.
No, she's renowned in Iowa.
Yes.
Come on.
They renamed like the footpath going across campus.
Oh, that is an honor.
It's the Amy Jacobson Memorial Footpath.
Memorial? She's not passed away.
She's still there.
Yes.
Amy Jacobson Footpath.
Yes, exactly.
They thought you died in Iowa City.
But I remember because you were a janitor during the summertime. And I talked to you about because we took TV Pro together, I'm sure.
Humble beginnings.
No, it is very
Really?
humble.
I mean, are you kidding though, Amy? Are you my age? Did we go to college together?
No, yeah, we really did.
That's what I thought.
See, and then I worked in Tucson at KOLD, and I know you worked with John Hook, who I'm friends with. And
oh my gosh.
thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
It'll come back to you. I'll send you the video.
You know what? I need to see your face, my dear. But
okay.
Thank you for confirming that she was a nobody at Iowa. That's what we were hoping.
I just heard the list of highlights, and I'm like, wow, she had way more fun than I did.
Yeah.
All right. Very good. Well, you two gals will have to get together and relive old times at some point. All right.
Oh my gosh.
So
hello, Hawkeye.
Yeah.
Hello, Hawkeye.
Yeah. Boy, the sisterhood took a little hit there. All right. So, Kari, before we get to the debate tonight and this election cycle, I think our listeners would be interested in some perspective on your journey, both as a candidate and then for 6 months after the election, challenging the results. Do you have any regrets about challenging the results, for example?
Not only do I not have regrets, I'm still challenging them. Our case is still alive and well, even though the media doesn't tell people that. We're in the appellate court with our case. We just filed another case about a month ago to get the envelopes for the mail-in ballots because they don't have signatures on them. They have chicken scratches, and the entire process is a sham. And so we're continuing to fight this. I've traveled across the country. I know where the people of Arizona stand. They watched as their election day was sabotaged. And where 60% of the voting locations, primarily all of them, Republican areas, had equipment that didn't work, tabulators that didn't work, and the ballots were misprinted. And I think there's a problem with that. And the people of Arizona are horrified by what happened. They want me to fight this. And I go all across the country, and the number one thing I get is thank you for fighting for honest elections. We must reform our elections or we won't have a country much longer. So I'm still in the fight, and I have no regrets at all. And I will continue to do that.
So give us some detailed, refresh recollections on what you just mentioned, the signature verification and absentee ballots, any of the other alleged chicanery that happened in Maricopa County. What did you present at the county court level that obviously was dismissed, and now you've appealed, as you were just describing? What sort of evidence were you able to compile to present in terms of election irregularities?
Well, we have a mountain of evidence. You know, the press always says there's no evidence, and you want to bang your head against the wall because it's like I can present the evidence, but I can't force someone to look at it. And we did present the evidence. The evidence comes to us from Maricopa County elections themselves. We got the system log files, which they dragged their feet, didn't want to give us that. We had to sue to get it. And that's basically every keystroke made. And we determined, and this was, by the way, we weren't able to put this into evidence, but we're going to at a later date. We determined that they pre-programmed the tabulators, pardon me, I'm forgetting the name of it, the tabulators to fail. We've got video evidence showing how they broke the seals on them, took out the memory card, put a new memory card in, tested those machines and saw that they would fail 59% of the time, so basically a dry run, and then they rolled those machines out into Republican areas, and those are the machines that failed 59% of the time on Election Day. And I think that's appalling. 300,000 mail-in ballots had no chain of custody. Every ballot has a chain of custody. They can tell where it originated from and where it came from. 300,000 have no chain of custody. And on Election Day, on a 20-inch piece of ballot paper, they intentionally printed a little bit smaller image, 19 inches, so people wouldn't really detect something was wrong. And then when people went to enter those ballots into the tabulator misread them. So there was a whole bunch of stuff that went on. We're fighting it, and the evidence has never been contested. The judges never said this evidence is false. The way they ruled against us was, well, the election manual procedures are just guidelines. They don't have to be followed. So they've never said that our evidence is false. The evidence comes directly from Maricopa County. They've just found little technicalities to rule on, like, well, election laws are just kind of guidelines and we don't really have to follow them, which I find pretty shocking. Why do we have election laws if we don't have to follow them?
Yeah, and was this statewide, the voting machines that went down, or just in Maricopa County? Because I got to tell you, my mom lives in Pima County in Tucson, and she's been there for 30 years, and even her Democratic friends voted for you. So that was
I don't know.
just...
Nobody voted for Katie Hobbs. And
no,
she
did a Biden. She campaigned in her basement. She was never out.
We would go to Tucson, which is the most liberal part of Arizona, and we would draw crowds of 1,000 people. Tucsonians who are just living under a socialist mayor who's destroyed that city. It's like a homeless apocalypse there. And everyone voted for us because we had the ideas and the policies to improve Arizona and restore Arizona to its really great days. And so there was all kinds of stuff happening in Pima County. Our lawsuit covers only Maricopa County. Maricopa County has 65% of the state population. If you don't run honest elections, if you rig an election in Maricopa County, you win the whole state. And so we're really taking on just Maricopa County, but we know there were problems in other counties as well, widespread problems, but we're focused in our lawsuit on Maricopa County.
Well, if you're not successful in with your litigation as it pertains to Maricopa County, then what is your optimism level for Republicans to win Arizona? And we're going to need Arizona probably to in 2024 to win the presidency back.
Well, one of we're going to be filing for injunctive relief to prevent the same thing from happening in 24. And so we're working on that. We want protection. We can't trust the people running the elections. We need the courts to step in, and we need oversight so that they can't pull the same stuff. I think going forward, it's going to be harder to cheat the exact same way because, they employed a lot of tactics to cheat, and they're being watched now. I mean, who would have ever thought that the machines would break down on Election Day when the majority of people were showing up? 75% were voting for me because they don't trust the elections after 2020. So they showed up on Election Day and they sabotaged Election Day right in front of our eyes, 4 and 5 and 6 hour lines. And if this would have happened in any Democrat city across the country, there would be protests like you wouldn't believe, and rightfully so. But because this happened in Republican areas, they want us to just act like it's not a problem and deal with it.
Was there? I'm sorry to interrupt, but was there enough personnel? Because this is, something we learned from 2020 is, you got to have to quote Warren Zevon, the lawyers, guns, and money up front, not after the fact. You got to have people in the polling places. You got to have lawyers at the ready. and the Trump campaign didn't have that certainly in the volume it needed it in these urban centers and swing states. What about with you? Were people on site, ready to go, watching what was happening and documenting it?
Absolutely, and I'm glad you asked that, Dan, because we learned a lot from 2020. I mean, who would have thought you have to be like watching every single move? We had many attorneys, and thankfully we did have poll watchers, poll workers, observers. We had just everyone was on the watch and on the lookout, and that's why we have so much evidence. We have video evidence because people were watching what was happening, taking video of the tabulators not working, the long lines, the rejected ballots. People being told to put their rejected ballot in a drawer. Some were even told to put it in a garbage bag and that they would take it downtown and count it. And so we had a lot of that, and we were ready to take affidavits and sworn declarations under the penalty of perjury. So we had a ton of people that were affected, real Arizonans who were affected by this, and we were able to put our case together a little more quickly, and that was helpful because when you challenge an election, you have very limited time to do that.
Now, you tried valiantly to get Katie Hobbs to debate you, and she was very successful in just staying on CNN and in her safe spaces. So you wanted debates. So what do you think of Trump skipping tonight's debate?
Well, somebody asked me that earlier. They said you were making a fit because Katie Hobbs wouldn't debate. And I believe that Trump will debate in the general election. But I did debate in the primary because my opponent and I were closer in the polls. Mm-hmm. I did throw a bit of a fit, when they said they were going to bring all these other opponents and people who were running that nobody had heard of, who were polling at 1% in. I said, this is just a distraction now. Yep. That's just to distract and cause chaos. Let's just have a legitimate debate. But President Trump is a debate is kind of a job interview. That's what I always would call it, a job interview. We already know he can do the job. He's held the job before, and he held it with quite a bit of success. I mean, we had hundreds of miles of border wall that he built. He cut taxes. He appointed Supreme Court justices. He unleashed American energy and made us energy independent, defeated ISIS, kept us out of wars. I could go on and on and on. We know he can do the job, and he is so far ahead. I had heard he was 40 points up. I was corrected yesterday in the Real Clear Politics national polling average. I think he's now 54 points ahead. This is an unprecedented lead. He is the incumbent, and this is just, this is just kind of like going to the Little League game when you're Babe Ruth. You just don't do it. We know that he can do the job. I also don't think he should go and give Fox a bunch of ratings points when Fox has made it very clear they are never Trumpers. They're for anybody but Trump. So he's going to give them ratings, have them attacking him, and take part in, eating Thanksgiving dinner at the kids' table.
So, Kari, are you on the short list to be Trump's vice president?
I don't think I am.
A lot of people
I don't
want
know.
you to be.
I've heard that. I haven't had any conversations to that discussion with President Trump, and I do talk to him frequently. I am just, all I'm doing is, as a mom, I want to make sure that we get our country back on track. I don't want to tell my kids I didn't fight for them. And I want to make sure we get the man who's going to help bring things back into control and root out the corruption in D.C., get us back on track. And I believe that man for the job is President Trump.
If you're not running with Trump, I should say, are you planning on running again?
Maybe
the election challenge notwithstanding, running again for statewide office in Arizona?
I'm actually considering it. About 3 or 4 months ago, I had a very powerful person in politics come to my door and try to bribe me out of not running for office. He offered me a job, a big job title, a large salary, a position on a board to sit out the next election. He didn't want me.
Was it Burisma?
No. It was not Joe Biden or Hunter Biden, no.
Okay.
It was, because I don't want to shoot the messenger. He was just delivering the message from really the kind of rhino wing of the party. And if they are so dead set of wanting me to stay off the ballot, there's a part of me that thinks I need to be on the ballot. Yep. And we have an option to pick up a Senate seat. It would be a 3-way race. We have 2 liberals, hardcore liberals running. One of them is Kyrsten Sinema, who's now calling herself an independent to try to help her, win. And even though the people of Arizona know she voted 93% of the time with Joe Biden. And so we have an opportunity to pick up a Senate seat and get a real fighter, an American fighter in there who will fight for the people of Arizona. And I am seriously considering doing that. I'll be making a decision here in the next few months.
All right.
Good
Kari
for you.
Lake, she is a Hawkeye,
Yes.
former television news anchor and former Republican nominee for governor in Arizona, also a surrogate for Trump in this 2024 cycle at present. Kari Lake, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. And she joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer.
Your show keeps me alive during the week. There's nobody I'd rather listen to between 5 and 9 in the morning than you guys.
On AM 560, The Answer.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently